Welcome to Career Success Radio. Fire up your career with Anne-Marie Cross and Keith Keller.
Well, as we mentioned, we've got a special guest joining us. It's Manjula and he's graduated with a graduate certificate in Australian Migration Law and Practice at the Australian National University and was admitted to the Migration Agents Registration Authority. He currently practices as a registered migration agent. Now, to promote Australian migration, Manjula travels overseas providing seminars and one-to-one consultations on how to migrate to Australia. The seminars provide general information on some of the most popular visa types. Welcome to the show, Manjula.
Yeah, hi, Kim. How are you?
Great. Thanks so much for calling in.
My pleasure.
We thought we'd start the show with just a little bit of an introduction into what you guys do there at the Australian Migration Consultancy and tell us a little bit about how people can go about moving to Australia and what you do there and how you help people do that process.
All right, great. Let's start with the Australian migration the profession because it's a very wide profession in Australia and a highly regulated profession because Australia heavily depends on the migrants that are coming into the country, and there are very definite pathways that someone can follow through to come live and work in Australia because we know there are a lot of people who are coming here as visitors but they can't live and work unless you have the right type of visa. Now, there are a lot of students coming here into Australia because this is one of the world's most popular destinations for higher education. And once they complete their studies, unless they have the right kind of the visa, they can't work and start living here. So what we do as Australian migration consultants, helping the people who does not have the right working rights or a visa which enable them to work or continue living here, to help them to convert their visa into a legitimate, we call them as lawful citizens.
Fantastic, fantastic.
And apart from that, there are a lot of people who arrive here and knowingly or unknowingly they get into sometimes their visas expired, so we help them to extend their visas. And there are a lot of family matters that we get involved in terms of visas, in the sense a lot of Australians, and it's a multicultural the community, as we know. So there are a lot of marriages happening with other countries, and then so we help them to get their partners into Australia the most quickest and legal way.
I agree. It's one of the things I specifically love about living in Australia is that it is such a multicultural vibe here that we have, especially living in Melbourne, we have virtually every nationality in the world represented here, and that really translates for me into being able to sample all this wonderful food and all the different cultural events. But one of the things I'm very fascinated by, Manjula, is what are the main challenges that people face moving to Australia? What are the types of things that they need to work out before they can actually live here?
One of the main challenges is that how to get a visa that will enable them to start working and earn an income while living in Australia, because the Australian migration system has defined in such a way that we decide who we want in the country. So that's one of the great reasons why we have ended up in a society that we are living in today, because we have a great control of who can come in through the system. So it's very important for someone to understand the system and see their eligibility before they decide to come here, because not everyone can just walk in and decide to stay on, because there are certain conditions. So certainly there are different parts to follow to achieve that, in the sense, okay, education is one way. So once you come here, you educate yourself and then follow the migration part in that sense. And the second option would be to someone to have if someone process that qualification, they can come here as a skilled migrant. Now, in that sense, that skills can vary from from blue collar to white collar workers. And I mean, just to put something in perspective, like we are talking about plumbers, electricians, mechanics, so on and so forth, and then going up to accountants, doctors, so on and so forth. So if you are a skilled, qualified person, there is opportunity in Australia for them to migrate here as a skilled migrant. Now, on top of that, but there are some people who are very successful in doing their own business, but they not necessarily have the academic qualifications. Now, Australia does not turn away those people because they welcome those entrepreneurs as well. So what they have created is there's a path for business migrants. So as a successful business migrant, as long as you can prove that you have a proven track record of developing your business and you had hands-on experience in your business, you can translate your know-how to Australia and set up a business and continue to work and live in Australia. Now, these are the main two pathways, but apart from that, there are so many other pathways for people to come into Australia. Now, recently, since July, the Australian government introduced a new two visa pathways, that is for overseas professionals, that their qualifications are not recognized in Australia. So just to give you an example, like most of the overseas doctors, even though they are general practitioners for many years, that qualification is not recognized in Australia. So they certainly get some exception. Their prior learning is definitely recognized, but they have to sit for certain Australian qualifications before they start practicing. So what they have done is introduce two more the visa categories where those people can come in here and while doing some work, they can get themselves qualified and then apply for permanent residency and start work and live in Australia. Now, this applies to plumbers, electricians, and any other laborers as well.
You've been listening to Career Success Radio. Fire up your career with Anne-Marie Cross and Keith Keller.